Good afternoon. Regular session, Nogales Housing Authority's Board of Commissioners meeting, 5 p.m., Tuesday, August 15, 2023, City Hall Complex, Council Chambers. Call this meeting to order. Could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Vice Mayor, do the honors.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. No call to the public, Letty. Item 4, Director's Report, Financial Report. Ms. Cervantes.
I'd like to start with, sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I'd like to start with the report and an explanation as to the change in reports. So when I requested the reports for this particular meeting, I noticed that prior reports that were given to you were not reflective of the actual month. In other words, whenever they were asked to submit the report, that was the cutoff date. So we weren't looking at actual reflection of the month. I know that's confusing, but you do have reports that are dated July 12th per se, and that's the day that they cut off the report. So I asked the ladies to go back and actually give me the same report, the same information, but with cutoff date of the end of the month. Reason for that, if you look at the back, I will start your actual data collection chart, which will make it a lot easier for us to be able to, on the table before you, you'll be able to see identified areas. You'll be able to compare month to month growth, hopefully not deficiencies, but it is what it is. I'm looking at reporting growth. I have selected specific information from the reports that you were receiving before to place on the data. However, I'm open to suggestions or recommendations if there's anything else you want to see on these reports. So with that being said, based on public housing and the information that was given to you before, the way we would read these reports is that we have the end of June, we had 212 existing leases. We had 4 units ready to lease. We had 3 units in turnaround status. We had 7 offline for modernization for a total of 226 units. The month of June, we actually had 2 move-ins, 1 move-out, 1 transfer, and 11 families were interviewed. The total for the month was 212 out of 219 for a 96.8, rounded off to a 97% occupancy. HUD prefers 98 or higher, so we're getting there. In July, we had 212 existing leases, 1 ready to lease, 6 units in turnaround status, 7 still offline for modernization for a total of 226 units. We had 4 move-ins, 2 move-outs, 0 transfers, 1 family interviewed. Total 213 out of 219 for 97.26%. I'd like to entertain any questions at this time before we move on to the voucher program, which is a little more complex. If you have any questions.
Go ahead, Commissioner. Gracias.
From this report, ready to use in June was 4, in July was 1, but our turnaround status was 3 to 6. Did the ready to lease move to turnaround status, or how does that work?
Okay, so we had 4 ready to lease, and you had 2 move-ins. You had 1 transfer, that's why it doesn't balance. Mr. Gradius, Commissioner Gradius. So the transfer left from 1 unit and moved into 1 that was ready, that was offline and came online in June. So if you look back at the May, you had 8 offline.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Yes, sir.
Well, I was just wondering, on your interview that you had one, is that from the waiting list, or is there a waiting list?
We do have a waiting list, and that is on the actual report. You have a waiting list of 100 and, sorry, there you go. 1 bedroom, 86 applicants, 2 bedrooms, 72, 3 bedrooms, 27, 4 bedrooms, 9, and 5 bedrooms, 3. The reason why only 1 was interviewed was because you had 11 interviewed in June, which would carry over also, and you only had 1 unit available.
Oh.
Yes.
Well, if you only have 1 unit available, my question would be, how long do people have to wait that are on the list?
I asked that question myself, and we're looking at a year to a year and a half, which adds to our discrepancies on when we do pull them back. A lot of them aren't interested anymore, or they're not eligible because they don't meet the pre-requirements even before we do background checks. So it's a very difficult situation.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Continue, Ms. Cervantes.
Okay, moving on to the voucher program, which is a little more complex. But in the voucher program, we had 197 total vouchers, which include your housing choice voucher and your project-based voucher. That's the way the percentage is calculated, so we have to look at that total as a whole. With a housing choice voucher, we had 177 vouchers in June. We had 151 actually executed under lease. We had 10 assigned, or as they call it, out on the street, which left us with 16 available. Again, totaling 177. We had 1 move-in. We didn't have any move-outs, no transfers, 17 interviews from the 113 people on the list. In July, again, we had 177 vouchers total. We had 156 vouchers executed, 8 on the street, with 13 available at the end of the month. Move-ins were 5, interviews conducted were 8, for a total of 105 on the waiting list. The project-based voucher, in June, we have a total of 20 project-based vouchers, which are the ones at Bowman. We had 20 executed, so we didn't have any balance, any available. 0 move-ins, 0 activity for the month, with 27 on the waiting list. In July, however, we did have 1 move out. So we had, at the end of the month, we had 1 available and 31 on the waiting list because that's an open waiting list. So the total for both of these months was 87% and 89%. Again, we're falling below because 98 is what they want to see. The discrepancy there, or should I say the hurdle there, is actually finding a place to rent. We do not have enough housing.
That was my question.
So how does the percentage work if you don't have the housing? Is it based on applications?
So the vouchers are based on eligibility for the actual voucher is assigned, and our participants and our tenants will go out and find their own place to rent. So it's not our own units, they'll find their own place. We're still given a certain number of vouchers that we have to give out. And right now it's even gonna grow when you look at the next page because there's different types of vouchers. So the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher is, again, your regular voucher. Your project-based voucher is our 20 Bowman ones. But then you have a stability voucher, which just came into effect in July. You'll find that on the next page. There was 5 of them issued to Nogales Housing Authority, which we have not started yet. And then you have the emergency voucher, which has its own guidelines to follow. And both the stability voucher and the emergency voucher are on a referral basis only. So a tenant cannot walk in and be qualified or be eligible just like your regular voucher. These are strictly referral-based vouchers, and our biggest referral agency is Mariposa.
Go ahead.
Maritza, what exactly is a stability voucher other than Mariposa collaborating with you guys? Like, what is an example of one?
The stability voucher right now, I'm not, for a lack of actual definition for it, Commissioner, is replacing the emergency voucher. But the emergency voucher is only effective right now through September, the end of September, and then those will be replaced with the stability vouchers. So I can get you the exact definition and send it to you, but I believe what's going to happen with the stability voucher is that it's going to open up for more than just the eligibility that's in place for the emergency voucher right now. Example, emergency voucher right now
Example.
is for domestic violence, homeless, as such. And the stability voucher, like I said, I'll give you the exact definition, but I think it's opened up to more categories than just those.
Commissioner Bojorquez.
Is the waiting list open for Section 8?
For Section 8, no, it's not.
It's closed?
It's closed.
Okay, and you're still having problems trying to house the people, right?
Yes, the waiting list is closed at, I believe, 103 we had, or 100, what was it that we had? The waiting list, 105, the end of July, but it's been closed. And recommendation is for us to wait for it to get down to about 50 maybe to open up again. So it's very tough situation, Commissioner.
I don't see any port-ins or port-outs on this list.
I'm sorry?
I don't see any port-ins or port-outs on this list. Are you still?
No. We didn't have any in June or July, but if you want me to leave it, like I said, I'll take anything, any recommendations that you have. If you want me to put it under, even though we don't have any, we can, because I know that your report from, I believe, May had one, or June. When I look back, you did have one to Tucson.
Have you had any residents request a port-out?
No, not right now.
Or have you had any other housing authority out of Nogales trying to port in?
Not right now, no.
No?
We had that one, like I said, I'll send you information on it because I know we had that one prior.
What about landlords? Have you tried to recruit more landlords to apply for the Section 8 program?
Since I started, I've been playing catch up, to be honest with you. And that was one of my next parts of the report, is that we do not have an inspector anymore. And that would fall more under the inspector's role in trying to recruit more landlords. So we're stuck on that, but any help we can get, I'm open to suggestions and recommendations, especially from
Because you know we have the whole county. We can get landlords from the whole county. not
Yes,
just
yes, and we do have, actually, we have some landlords from Patagonia and quite a few in Rio Rico, but we even have out in Patagonia, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Please continue.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Marquez.
We don't have any other questions on the reports. Next on my report would be 3 letters that have been received from our HUD field office within the past 30 days. And I'll go with the first one, which was dated July 21st. I checked with Mr. Chairman Maldonado, and he has copies of the letters. He can forward them to you if you'd like to see it. But the first one actually speaks to our sustainability. I know you didn't want to see this again, sorry. Our sustainability working document and the fact that we still have two outstanding subjects on here. One would be the board training, and the other one would be our audit. The audit was finally submitted on August 7th, and now we're pending REACT acceptance for it to be cleared off of this report. The other issue on here was the board training. They referred to it on the letter as a potential conflict of interest. That's how it is referred to in the letter. I'm not sure if you read it, but they identified issues regarding conflicts of interest in the roles and responsibilities of the City Council versus NHA Board of Commissioners. I am opening that up to discussion, suggestions, recommendations.
Commissioner,
Ms. Cervantes, is Marta Duron still the Nogales representative?
No, she is not. She is not there anymore. We now have Margaret, what's Margaret's last name? I'm not sure if she sent out this letter.
Well, anyways, on July 24th, she sent an email to the Housing Authority, and it was CC to the chairman and the commissioners, and she was recommending that the Board of Commissioners be a separate body other than the mayor and council because of the conflict of interest. And she was recommending that the current board start thinking about that. I don't know if she's gotten in contact with you after that. That was July 24th when she sent the email.
And that's part of the actual letter that was submitted, but the letter was submitted by their director, which is Sharon Alfonso. And on there, that's where I was reading that it says that we do, that's what it's recommended, not necessarily that we have to. However, in looking into this and asking, again, our field office, it would be us going back and potentially reviewing the bylaws. So our bylaws here versus what the city has in place. And or taking it from there moving forward. A lot of it has to do with the actual training. I'm not sure how many of you have completed. I know some have completed the training. And in doing so, before Marta did mention that in completing the training, how do you feel about wearing both hats? Would you be able to identify yourself as a commissioner or as a councilman, basically? So, yes.
So the training is the same training that has been required for years and years?
Yes, the training,
Okay, I've done that training, but I guess you're talking about getting it updated?
the Lead the Way training?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that the training you're talking about?
Yes, yes.
So how is that supposed to help us in making a decision if we should be,
What-
on the, as a commissioner and on the council? I mean, I don't understand why that training would help us decide. That's kind of a legal question.
I agree. And that's why I said bylaws to actually review the bylaws in the city charter.
Okay.
I think I can answer part of that question. The roles of the Board of Commissioners is very different from the council, from the council, City Council Commission. A separate body would be able to monitor and supervise and interact with the housing director and the employees. But as city council members, we can't do that because we have to follow the city charter mode, and that's what's it's been a not a problem, but a kind of a confusion part of this body. So I would think we would have to get together with the city attorney and see what he recommends or how he wants us to handle that.
I agree, and I'll take your recommendation, follow through if that's what we're doing.
Mr. Bojorquez, Mr. Bermudez.
I'm glad we started off where we left off last meeting.
Okay.
It is confusing. One of the examples I'll give you is I talked to Councilman Bonilla, and he's requesting to meet with Director Cervantes. However, it's confusing because is he meeting with her as a councilman or is he meeting with her as a commissioner? So that's kind of the blurry lines behind all this stuff. And I think it would, like you say, it's a legal question that needs to be obviously answered.
Commissioner Montiel?
So I went back and looked at some of the legal opinions that Mr. Machado has given on when he was an attorney, which has been a long time. But so, you know, he clearly makes an opinion, and you could read it yourself about it. So I don't know. My suggestion is, because you're asking, is I mean maybe if he's still in the opinion that there's two roles here. Maybe the Attorney General could give us an opinion. What do other municipalities do?
From what I have researched also,
Yeah.
The only other one that has the same situation that we have is Tucson right now, but it's temporary because they fired their whole commissioner.
Okay. So
their
that's
board.
right now. You've done your
Yes.
research, and that's
So,
recently.
but that's, like I said, it's, from what I was told, it's a temporary situation.
Have you tried the League of Cities and Towns for any, like, have you contacted them?
Most of them have their separate entities.
But you've contacted them?
Yes. Well, actually, I went to a workshop last week, a conference last week, and then asking around, that's what I got.
Commissioner Gradius?
I think the issue that we're dealing with is an issue that's a problem because the housing has been adopted into the charter, and that's where the conflicts exist. So unless we change the charter or we do something going forward where it would be put to vote or whatever we need to do to affect the change in the charter, there's really anything we can do because we're working subject to the charter now because that department has been adopted under that. And perfect timing here, maybe he can clarify this.
I was told what the discussion was. Where are we on the discussion?
The question is, how we go about it. The question is if, when we approach the director, is it as commissioners? Is it as council members? Our charter calls us commissioners during the HUD meetings, but how do we separate the entities and how do we go about what is it? Or how can we correct it, or?
For what purpose? I guess I should ask you that.
I think it's,
Why would you want to separate? In other words, you're always commissioners, you're always aldermen. or
councilman.
You don't, when you go talk to the director, you're actually talking as both because she's a city employee. Because she's a city employee and it's a city department. So you would be there as a councilman. But for other purposes, you're there as commissioners. So for all intents and purposes, it's the same. It's the same. You're wearing two hats, but it's the same role that you do.
Either way, we got to, the way I look at it, we can talk, we can discuss, but we cannot direct.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think that's, the main focus, that getting it, questions or explanations, but not without any direction. I think that's, go ahead.
Yeah, but that is a difference between a councilman or councilwoman and a board of commissioner. There's two separate, two different roles. The HUD looks at the commissioners as people that sit on a board and a body and deal with the daily things of the housing authority, and they can interact with the housing director and the employees. But as councilmen, we can't do that. We have to go through the city manager We can't go directly to the director or any employee. And that's the difference between being a commissioner and a council.
See,
Ma'am.
the reason this is in most jurisdictions, the housing authority is separate and apart from the city. That you're dealing with two separate entities. So then you have a board of commissioners, which many times is not the council themselves, but a different board. Okay, it's a separate. And at one time, that was how the city of Nogales was set up. But because of problems that arose and that and so on, the city took it over and made it a department of the city. See, so that's why we have the mishmash. And that's why when there's no way for them to say, today I'm acting as a commissioner, but 5 minutes ago I was a councilman. They're always both and the same, and that applies like Mr. Bujorque said. Now, I had thought of, and I tried to do things to streamline the process. I thought it was always duplicative of efforts to have a commission meeting and then have a council meeting. And I thought that what we could do is at least have them, notice them and have them together, even though this portion of the meeting is commission, this portion is council, but at least we have them all together. I got a lot of pushback from that, trying to do that from HUD, but I understand that might change though.
And that was the only thing that they were able to give me straightforward answer, is that it had to be two completely separate meetings. That was the only guidance I got
But
from them.
there's no rhyme or reason for that, you know, other than the fact that I think that the person that gave you that's how she wanted it done. Okay. But ask, where does it say that? There's no really requirement that be done. We're not saying that the council is going to do the commissioner's job, only that we're trying to schedule it at the same time so that we don't have to schedule this one at 5 or 4 on one day and the other one at 6 or 7. You just do it the same with the same notice, and you're clear as to what portion is going to be NHA and which portion is going to be city. Just for the convenience of the council, I was trying to do it. But like I said, that might change. So that's something we may look at down the road.
And it makes sense. I mean, if you actually are having part of your meeting and you just adjourn to go into the other one and then come back, it makes sense to me.
Joe, and I think, Mr. Mayor, Chairman, and I think the reason that the HUD is looking at it at that angle is because the Housing Authority keeps their own minutes on the meeting. And I guess they don't want to mix them with the city's minutes. And like everything else, you know, the Housing Authority has their own separate audit. And that's the way they want to keep the meetings separate from the city council. So I'm guessing that's the reason. We were talking about the memo that Marta emailed to us. I don't know if you got a copy, and she was recommending. She didn't say that we had to, but she was recommending that we get a separate board for the housing authority.
Separate what?
Board of commissioners instead of the
A
city.
separate board?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, again, that would, in my opinion, that would create tons of problems because, again, it's a city department, and I'm thinking a lot of practical problems in terms of enforcement, but really a lot of legal problems, because then you would have an independent body trying to tell a city department what to do, city employees, a city director, and so on. So, man, I see that as just a recipe for disaster if we go down that road.
Go ahead, Commissioner Doyle.
Well, actually, one of the things that I've noticed that they've kind of kept us in the dark. I remember when I was mayor, they would send us invitations to go, and I don't know what. Yeah, maybe I'll ask. You went to a gathering, I guess, with HUD. Not recently, you're saying?
No, I'm sorry, it was not a gathering yet. I actually went to a training.
Oh, okay. But anyway, there used to be and I remember, and I'm sure that's when Mr. Bojorquez was there, that they would send us invitations and he would notify us as housing director if we wanted to go to the training sessions that HUD would put out, or different levels of housing. And some were local here in the state, some were out of state, but they really, the trainings were very beneficial. It would open our understanding more. And I've been here 8 months already, and it seems like HUD ignores us. I mean, we haven't had, have you had an invitation, Councilman Bojorquez, or Vice Mayor, I should say? But you remember that we would have a few a year. And these were good trainings because it opened our eyes to the responsibility that we had as commissioners in housing. And that way it kind of made us aware of the responsibility we had as commissioners for the housing. And at the same time, we were also aware of our city responsibilities with the local housing. So when they give us that training or bring us more knowledge, well, it makes it easier for us to be commissioners. And that's, I'm mentioning that because I like to see if you can find out why we're being ignored.
Mr. Doyle?
If I may, I'm not necessarily certain if we're being ignored. However, given the circumstances, I can tell you that they have offered to come and provide training. Our HUD field office has offered. They did send me, after all this, they did send me some PowerPoints, which I could share, and they also shared the link. However, back to what you said, I wouldn't want anything more than you guys, if you're willing to go to training, what better situation would we be in, you know, if you wanted to go to training, because you are making these decisions, you are making these recommendations, and it would be in everybody's best interest.
Mayor, I don't want you all to miss the point here, because training does help, definitely. But the other, I guess you could call them conventions or meetings that they would have. You recollect that, Vice Mayor? And those, it's almost the same thing like the League of Cities and Towns, where you go and you're you know, meeting all these other people that are having different issues in their own locales. And so, you know, we get to speak to them. We get to compare and share ideas, and, you know, and it really that in itself also gives us a lot of knowledge and a lot of contacts.
In a conference setting.
Yes, in a
Yes.
conference setting. And they would have even conventions, right, during the year. And I don't see that anymore, and that's what I'm asking.
So Commissioner Doyle, I think those invitations were made from NARO. It's a National Associated Housing Authority Rural. And there's another entity called Arizona NARO. Those invitations came from them. The Housing Authority would have to budget for those trainings. But everything changed. Nowadays, everything's done online. So, you know, in order to save the housing authorities money of sending the commissioners or the employees to training, they do everything online. So online changed the whole system around.
Yeah, but online you don't have that feedback or that you have with when you're talking directly to other folks throughout the nation that are experiencing maybe same issues or making you aware of things that are.
Well, if you take that lethal weight training, it deals with housing authorities going through actual problems and how to fix them, and talking to directors and employees and other people involved in housing. So I'm guessing that's why the whole system changed, because everything's done online now. So.
Well, I besides that, I think you had us spoiled. Putting the pressure here on the director, but no, if you can find any information on that where they have live, you know, conferences that we can go to instead of online, because you don't get the same effect online. It's not the same as being out there and talking to actual live folks and intermingling and, you know, having all that feedback that you get. So that's the reason I'm mentioning that, because it just gives you a greater insight. And again, you're able to call different people sometimes and get feedback from them, or even a text, I guess, for the modern day folks here. Thank you.
Thank you. So, yes, sir.
I'm sorry, Mr. Cervantes, you said that you had submitted the audit on August the 8th, or something like that?
It was not me submitting it. It was actually the auditing firm that finally submitted it on August 7th.
Is that the fiscal year end 2023?
Which one did you guys have? I'm doing 23, right? I'm barely starting 23. It was the one that was overdue.
I think
The
we
one
just-
that you just approved, yes.
Okay, so we're up to date, right?
Yes. Once REACT approves, we're good to go.
Yeah, because the audit's got to be done 6 months after the fiscal year end, so,
Yes, we just started the new one.
okay.
Yes,
Right,
thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, Ms.?
I did have the other two letters, which are awesome. We have two. One was actually based on, sorry, let me go back to my notes instead of reading the whole thing. It's a recovery agreement, and the recovery agreement will be made based off of the two items that are pending, which we can take care of. Everything else is off the record now. The third letter had the corrective action plan was completed. So when REACT came and did the actual physical inspection that we did not pass and we were in troubled status, we corrected everything that we said we were going to correct, and now we have recovered the substandard physical designation opposed to the troubled. So taking baby steps, but we're getting there. There's still a lot of progress to be done, but we're headed in the right direction, and I want to thank you for providing that support and that guidance, and hopefully continue to provide it as I continue to learn. Any other questions?
Commissioner Gradius.
Back in May, we approved the 5-year plans. One of the plans, we didn't follow the procedure, and I asked to get us some information or feedback, whether are we okay since we approved it. But our decision was based on erroneous information that was provided to us because the process wasn't followed correctly. We still approved it. We went ahead with it. I just want to make sure that we're okay if we didn't go back and clear it up. The 45-day notice and the RAB approval before it. So those weren't done, and we knew after the fact, after we had approved it. So I just asked for clarification. I haven't received anything since. And it's off our list, but it's off our list because we approved it. But I just want to make sure that we don't have any repercussions because it wasn't followed. The procedure wasn't followed exactly. So I don't know if that's a legal question or if maybe John can clarify that for us.
And if I recall, that was done with the approval of Martha and Ms. Charon to continue and the process and turn in everything as it was and bring it to the board so we approve it.
Yes,
Right.
Mr. Commissioner, you were in the same meeting that I was in my office, and we were speaking to Martha and Mrs. What's her name?
Charon Alfonso.
Yeah. And they cleared us on all that. And it's all taken care of. So there's nothing pending.
From Martha stating that we are correct and that we do need the two different and distinct 5-year plans require RAB approval, require 45
That's
days
correct.
public notice, but we didn't do it.
That's
And
correct.
the acting commissioner at the time told us we had. So we
That's
made a
correct.
decision, approved it based on that information.
That's correct.
So are they giving us our blessing that everything's good?
That is
Unless
correct.
it's on the record,
That is what they have indicated to us, Mr. Gradias, and we did not need to go back and redo the 45 days and do all that. But they did tell us in the future, looking forward instead of looking backwards, how to proceed with these. But that's the information that we have.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have a question, Whisper or Commissioner? Go ahead.
Commissioner Gradillas, we don't take the problems off the list. It's HUD's the one that decides if it stays on the list or if it's taken off the list. So, if they take it off the list, it means that HUD approved it.
I understand that, but the list said that we needed to do that plan, so we did the plan, we approved it. That was the requirement, not the actual process. So that was why I brought that question up. I understand where you're coming from, but it's two different issues.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Rantes, something else?
Mr. Chairman, that ends my report. And if I can just go back to the actual potential conflict of interest, we are okay if I just meet with Mr. Machado and follow through and give you an update next meeting, or how would we like to proceed with this?
Are you referring to the conflict of interest that's mentioned in the letter? Okay. Let's, you and I discuss it. But
Thank you.
I honestly don't see it.
Okay. Then I will meet with him and report back to you. Thank you for your time.
And is there anything else, we could look at support and, maybe from the community that we could help you with getting these percentages up? Are you spreading the word? How are we spreading the word of our needs?
We will work on a plan to reach out, an outreach plan. I also noted that we're not doing outreach as an agency, which is very important. So I will get on moving on that as well. There's nothing better than resources and local resources and reaching out to other people within our community, because we do want the rent to stay within the community. So it's basically outreach that we were lacking, but I am moving forward with.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Go ahead,
So how many employees, how many openings do you have right now? Because you just said somebody left.
I have 2 maintenance that were open before that I will be filling, and the inspector, so 3 as of now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That it? Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much, and
Thank
good
you.
job.
Thank you.
I know we got housing
Oh,
resolution. Number 5, housing resolution, consideration and possible action of housing resolution 2023-0807, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of Housing Authority of the City of Nogales approving the removal of previous bank signature Robert Thompson from bank account of the Nogales Housing Authority at the JP Morgan Chase Bank and Wells Fargo Bank, and adding the signature of the current housing director, Maritza Cervantes.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Any future agenda items? I would say just that clarification. Please look into it, and if you need support on outreach to the committee, let's talk about, because that's not just in housing, and a lot of things in the city that we need to spread out the word.
thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Well, that's it. No future agenda items. Move to adjourn this meeting. All in favor? Aye. All against?